the penguin goes to the toilet frequently, so it's a game of Russian roulette when you pick one up.
I'm quite used to being shat on by fellow actors, so it was no surprise to me.
Yeah. It was either me or the penguin. One of us was going to do it. The penguin was a bit reluctant that day, then I'd take over. He's my friend.
Okay, off you go.
He's not my penguin. I don't like penguins.
I was a bit resistant at the beginning because of its title, Penguins, and a film about a penguin. But once you get into the script and as you get into the film, you discover that there's an underlying kind of seriousness to the film. It's set in Argentina at the time of the junta. Great unrest in the country, great unrest in society, especially in the school where the film is set. And the penguin is this sort of unifying element to bring peace and harmony, compassion, understanding to the pupils and the staff and to all the adults outside the school.
I didn't write the script, of course. Jeff Pope wrote the script. He's a wonderful screenwriter. Yeah. So when I heard he was adapted, I was sent the script and then I read the book. But, I thought with Jeff involved, I'm halfway in already.
I've worked with him a lot over the years, and he told me about it, and I was reluctant at first, but then we had long talks about it and how to make it perhaps a more enjoyable story or a more sort of engaging journey for the main character, Tom Michell. Eventually I said, okay, well, I'll jump.
But then when I read the book, I realised these different elements are just so refreshing and unexpected. And it felt like just a really exciting project. I was just really, really intrigued from the get-go. I think really you take the essence of the book, you try and be true to it. There are certain things you think, I cannot change that. There are other things you think, we're gonna make a good film is what you want to make in the end. So it's be true to the spirit of the book. But the best favour you can do to the book is to make a great film. So if you think, well, that didn't happen in the book, then you're kind of hamstrung. So yeah, it's a balance, but actually, once you're making it, the priority is like, make the movie work.
The film that Peter's produced is almost exactly the same as the book. So that's just brilliant.
Except for we made Tom twice as old.
Yeah, but
and not nearly as nice and well balanced as Tom Michell.
But it's not about me.
Nice guys don't necessarily make really interesting
No, he just says I'm thoroughly boring and will make a very bad.
So making him older, I think you've got more opportunity for someone who's a bit washed up, and like Steve Coogan's character, we invented a lot of his psychological backstory, so he's got a lot to overcome. And it felt tonally really right to have someone like Steve who has that cynicism and that caustic wit when you balance it with the penguin. It just felt like a really good, but it's a buddy movie really. And so you have nice little sweet little penguin and then cynical, funny Steve who hates penguins at the beginning, and then it's got a great journey and a more unexpected journey to go on.
Christmas Carol wouldn't work if Scrooge weren't a miserable old miser in the first place, and he meets, a penguin, and he turns into something different. Now, if he'd been a sweet, lovely, avuncular gentleman who was very generous in the first place,
like you,
and end up in the same thing, well, you haven't moved anywhere. So that doesn't work, and I couldn't be more delighted. I could not be more delighted than I am with the film that they've made.
I like you, Michelle.
I don't.
Just the chap I want
Master, I was hoping to...
Your job is to get the boys up to O-level standard. As far as I can see, they're some way off.
Do you have a penguin in there?
A penguin?
A penguin.
Yes.
Yes.
There were two hero penguins and some sort of a backup team of penguins who all sort of lived together. The two lead penguins were a couple called Babbitt and Richard. So they mate for life, like swans. So they were very happy because they got to be in each other's company most days. And there was a robot penguin and a puppet penguin in a couple of scenes whenever we felt it was too demanding or not right ethically to ask a penguin to do something. You can't force a penguin to do anything, actually. It's got a mind of its own. It decides where it wants to go.
Well, the first thing is to get good, like all filmmaking, good collaborators. So we found fantastic animal handlers, Hans and Vicky, who live with a community of penguins. He's an amazing man. He actually works a lot in conservation. If there's ever actually an oil spill or something similar anywhere in Northern Europe, he's got this van pre-packed with bars and detergent. He just goes voluntarily and saves penguins' lives, and sea lions is his other speciality, who eat penguins, so there you go. But
there are any penguins in the northern, well, not
sorry,
the Galapagos.
yeah.
So what do you mean?
Sea lions then, it must
Right,
be.
yeah,
Sea
yeah.
lions, that's
Or
right.
other
Because when I first met him, he'd
birds.
just come back from this trip to like try and save a sea lion and seals. So asked them, you know, they had the script and there was stuff in the script which Jeff had just kind of thought, well, that would be good, let's invent that. But it was more a case of then talking to them about what's possible and kind of reverse engineering natural penguin behaviour into the script. But, you know, in a way, I'm often saying to actors, do less and just listen and react. Honestly, the camera you don't need to act, the camera, just stand there. And you didn't have to say that to a penguin.
I had you as a head-down sort of fellow. Anything for a quiet life? And what happened to you?
I met a penguin.
Now, Jonathan, your character exclaims early on in the film that the school approaches politics with a small p, and you've sort of mentioned the underlying context. So how did you kind of deal with the balance between the heartwarming comic elements of the story against that wider, darker political context?
Well, that's not my job. That's the writer's job and the director's job. My job is to tell my character's story, and you tell it as plausibly as possible. And he's a character who exists in those circumstances. So you see him reacting to the circumstances, and hopefully you see him and most of the other characters in the film learning from those experiences, learning I was going to say learning from the penguin, but you don't learn from the penguin. You learn how people react to the penguin.
If you don't take the penguin with you, I will arrest you.
On what charge?
I will just arrest you.
I certainly didn't start making it with any kind of message. But the thing I learned on the journey of making the film was the value that animals can have in people's lives. It's kind of like both mental health way. I think it can take, you have this random, could be a dog, could be a puppy, could be a penguin, and it's unpredictable and random, needs quite a lot of love, and it takes people out of themselves. It takes people out of that navel gazing and the depressive self-obsession. It reduces the ego in a way. It's also chaos, like same as in a family or in a group of friends. There's this chaos element involved, and that just, I think, makes people feel happier. And that was true on set, which was really wonderful. It was actually, there were very strict rules. You couldn't shout, you couldn't clank equipment around. And it did the same to a film set, which on a low budget film, people aren't getting paid a great deal. They're tired after on week 6, and actually Penguin comes in and it really civilized the environment and made it a really lovely experience.
It was the first time I've ever been out onto a film set, and I've imagined something chaotic and hideous like a Gordon Ramsay kitchen, with people swearing and shouting and things everywhere. And I looked at this, and it was almost military in its precision. And I thought, this is obviously Peter's style.
Very good.
Everybody knows exactly what they've got to do and how they're going to do it. And it was General Peter was in charge.
Very, very good first AD and a penguin.
I hope that if they are cynical, like Tom Michell's character, and he goes on a journey where he learns to be slightly, no one's going to have a huge epiphany or become saintly, but everyone should try and just be a bit kinder to the people next to them.
If you love penguins, you love this film.